This week definitely didn't go quite to plan. Hello and welcome to my channel. In this video I'm going to be doing my weekly wrap up, and yeah, this didn't quite go to plan. As you may have seen in my last weekly update, I was reading Song of the Mysteries all week. It's pretty much all I did in the last week, and I had just such a massive book hangover after that, and I couldn't get into anything. I had specifically planned, I'm going to do some lighter reads that'll be really easy to get into, and it didn't matter what it was. I was struggling to get into anything at all, and so I ended up actually getting an okay amount of reading done, but not a whole lot overall this week because of that. So what I ended up doing is, sometimes when you're in that vein, this was definitely for good reasons, for the record. It was just nothing else was that book, and I just wanted more Wars, Light, and Shadow. So I tried something totally different, and I read, and I borrowed it from my library, so I don't have the physical copy anymore because I returned it because it was super short. Annihilation by Jeff Vandermeer, which is sci-fi, but it's also like sci-fi mixed with like psychological horror and almost thriller kind of elements. It was super weird. I actually really liked it, and I feel like it might be one I have to revisit at some point, because like I said, I feel like anything I would have been reading in this time period is probably wasn't getting the focus it deserves. But it's like 200 pages. It's a tiny book. I read it like all in one day for the most part, and got through really quickly. And so it kind of worked because it was super different and odd, and just kind of worked to reset me a little bit. But I was still not quite all the way there. So I also read one of the strangest things I think I've ever read in my life, which is Lucian's True History, which is a like ancient Greek satire, and the idea of it basically is it's satirizing all of these stories and myths and stuff that are told as if they're real things that happened. And so it's so interesting because it's a mix of like actually name dropping real people like Homer, and references to Homer, and Homer himself make lots of appearances, as well as some other myths. And then it's just also just off the wall, strange stuff. I don't specifically remember how I heard about this, is the thing too, because I think at some point I read some article or I saw some reference to it. It's supposed to be the quote unquote first science fiction novel because it involves going to space, and it does. They do like go to space and have a big like battle, and then they come back and just do other stuff, which is more. But I saw it. You can get it. This is also for the record. If you Google it, Lucian's True History. It's also sometimes called Lucian's True Story. But if you Google Lucian's True History, Google Books has a free to download version of it, which is a digitized version of a copy that's also more than 100 years old, that's in a library somewhere. That's completely free to read. And so that's kind of what I did. So I downloaded this ages ago, and it on my phone, and I remember was just happened to come across it, and I'm like, huh, you know what? This is super weird. Let's do this. So I sent it over to the Kindle and gave it a read, and yeah, it's very strange. It was definitely an experience, but I think it was just so odd and so different that it really did actually help finally reset me. The funny thing is, because you'd think, oh, it's a translation of this ancient Greek thing, and the translation itself was done, couple hundred years ago at least. I'm trying to think of when it actually said it was translated, but it might even be older than that. I don't know, it's a very old translation, and then it's in a copy of a book that, like I said, is from quite a while ago. But the introduction, which is 10% of the document, it was way too long and way harder to read than the actual book itself, which I think is funny as well. So I almost didn't actually read this because the introduction was just such a chore to get through, and I could have just skipped it. I know, I couldn't make myself do it. But anyway, I had a really fun time with this. It's not necessarily something that I'd recommend as like, oh, this is really good, you have to read it. But as a curiosity, if you're curious to see, it was interesting. Would I say it counts as like the first sci-fi novel? Most certainly not. It doesn't feel like sci-fi at all. They do go to space, but if anything, it's like, you could say it's sci-fantasy because of space, but I feel like sci-fi is more than just space. And so it was different. Most of it does not take place in space, But there's just, it's super weird things. It does a bunch of different creatures and races of people and things described. So you have some sci-fi elements maybe, but it had a lot of fantasy too. And then of course it's satire. And I think too, it does seem like part of the point is just making it as crazy as possible to be like, and he keeps doubling down that like, this is 100% true. This really happened. And like the joke at the very beginning is basically that as an author, he's saying like, well, I guess since these are the things that survive and are looked at as amazing, or these false stories, well then I'll do one too. And like, I'll tell you this is absolutely true. And so just kind of the idea of it is fun to me. It's not the most applicable today, but it almost would be like if somebody today, wrote like a satirical, almost like fan fiction of several popular things, and then just like fantasy or sci-fi things, and then also just added in a bunch of crazy stuff. So is this, is this the origins of Discworld? Maybe, because that's almost more what this is like. It's just off the wall weird with some like satire in there as well. So I don't know why I didn't think about that until actually talking about it. But yeah, so it was really strange. So those are the two things I did read. They were both pretty short. It took me a chunk of the week. I did also finish Towers of the Sunset, actually, before those two, and I forgot to mention it, even though it's sitting right in front of me. I finished the last little bit of this I had because there wasn't a whole lot. And I'll probably do a review. This is one, too, where I just feel like I was, I had to, like, force myself to really pay attention because I was still kind of like, ugh. So that's where I'm like, I'm gonna start reading some other random stuff and then get this finished up. So it was around the time with it, but it was solid. I don't know yet if I'm gonna do a full review for this. I might, just because it was not what I was expecting fully, and it took me a little bit to get into it, but I think it does a lot of interesting things. So I feel like if I do, it'd be like part spoiler-free review and then part spoiler talk, because I feel like talking spoilers is gonna be good for that one. But anyway, I did finish that one up, so I'll definitely talk a bit more about it. But it was really cool seeing a lot more world building, and this happening well before the events of the first book, and some things it did with the characters I thought were interesting as well. So I'll save that for when I talk about it more. I'll do some sort of review if it's a short one, and we'll go from there. Then we can finally get to the things I said I was actually going to read this week, which are Desperate Dispatches, which I'm not super far in. I'm a few pages, I realized, a few pages from finishing the first part of this, because this is split into different character POVs. So I'm getting there. This does read really quick, and it took me a bit, like I said, to actually get started with this, because I didn't want to, just be kind of reading it and have my mind wandering, so that's why I waited until after the reset. And then I have also been reading Black Powder War, which is the third Temeraire book, and going through here, and I'm a good chunk through there. I don't think I'm quite half. Yeah, I don't know. I got a bit left. I'm not sure exactly how far I am there, but I do hope to finish both of these up here, hopefully very shortly. So in the next few days, and then start on something else for next week. These should have both easily been done. Like I said, I did not read for several days. After finishing Song of the Mysteries, I didn't read at all that weekend, and I barely did anything Monday, Tuesday, so it was kind of like crammed reading in the last few days leading up to now. But that's kind of where it is. And then, as far as what is next, I've decided I'm going to 100% do Lions of Albersan by Guy Gavriel next. This one is, it's Guy Gavriel. I know it's supposed to be beautifully written, and usually I think his stuff is a little on the slower side. So I don't know how long this will take. I'm probably just going to take my time, but I might end up reading this for a nice chunk of what's left of the month for physical, and going from there. And so I'll have to see how that goes speed-wise. I will be starting probably the Burning Stone, Chrono Stars 3 on audio for my reread of that, because I still haven't actually started that, and I need to, because we're getting late in the month, so get that taken care of as well. And then a couple of other things that I might end up throwing some other stuff in, I don't know, but a couple of other things that I might throw in as well include How to Rule an Empire and Get Away with It, because I was just sent by Patrick Ryan. Thank you. The third book in this series, and so now I'm like, oh, I really want to read this, so I might randomly throw that in. That also was not in my stack of books that I said I was potentially going to get to. And then also, That Way Lies Camelot by Janie Wirtz. This is a collection of shorts, which actually I feel like this would have been really great to read after Song of the Mysteries, because I'm still getting Janie, but it's like short stories, and I didn't even think about it. I need to finish this month, because I used Master of Whitestorm for a prompt next month in the Battle of the Bands readathon. You should join my team, the best team, of course. That I talked about the books I'm going to be reading there. Master of Whitestorm being the last book I have in her backlist. I actually still need to read this first, so that will be the last. So this is, like I said, it's a collection of short stories. It's not super long. It should not take too long. But I'll be interested, because this is like all kinds of different stuff. There's sci-fi, there's fantasy, there's all kinds of stuff here. And so I'm really curious to read that as well. So that'll be coming. I don't know if that'll be this week, but it'll be sometime this month, because I need to. But those are some things that I will and may read as we go along. But that's really it for this one, though. Let me know what you read this week as well, or let me know if you've got suggestions or like go-tos when you are going through a really bad book hangover. What do you usually use for that as well? I don't know that I'll have another one for a bit, but always good to have some stuff in store and like stocked for that. So let me know in the comments down below. Make sure to give the video a like if you enjoyed it. Check the link in the description, as always, for the Wizard of the Enclave Discord if you want to chat books, whether any of these books, other books, really anything at all. It's a lot of fun, and we would love to have you. And, of course, if you enjoy my content, make sure to subscribe.